Somebody has just asked me the question about the modern state of Israel. I was quite surprised that hadn't come already when I was talking about redefined election, but there we are. Is there any sense in which the state of Israel founded in the late 1940s could be the fulfillment of biblical prophecy? Now, I taught at the Hebrew University in 1989. There's at least one person in this room who I was close to in Jerusalem at the time. And the Hebrew University on Mount Scopus has this amazing corridor with larger than life-size pictures of the returning exiles in the 20th century. Jews making the journey from Eastern Europe and so on. And all around, they have quotations from Isaiah and Ezekiel and so on. And the Shrine of the Book at the Israel Museum with the Dead Sea Scrolls has the central plinth of that is a facsimile of the text of the Isaiah scroll. And the whole thing is focused on the establishment of this state is the fulfillment of prophecy. So, I mean, I've seen that close up, how that ideology works. And it's it's a great ideology within the modern Zionist movement, and it has no basis in Christian reading of Scripture whatsoever. I'm very clear about that. This is not what Romans 11 is all about. Astonishingly, and I say this in the Paul book, astonishingly, in American culture, it is taken for granted that Paul in Romans 11 predicts the return of the Jews to the land. And my evidence for that is a piece in the New Yorker a couple of years ago about Michelle Bachmann, who was going to be a presidential hopeful, and they ran this piece on her and talked about her fundamentalist beliefs, and they said that this picks up from the fact that in the New Testament in Romans 11, Paul predicts that Jews will return to their land. And when I read that, I thought, you know, the New Yorker used to employ people called fact checkers. How did that happen? But it's deep in some bits of American culture, and the rest of the bits of the American culture just accept that that's how it is. And it really, really isn't. Paul says all the promises of God find their yes in him. And actually, part of the problem is that Western Christianity has so de-Judaized itself and de-Judaized its picture of Jesus that there is, as it were, a Jewish deficit left over, which then has to be fulfilled somewhere else. And instead, when we understand Paul's gospel Jewishly and Jesus as the Messiah, then this is how it is. Now, that's not to say that the state of Israel is illegitimate. That's a totally, totally different question. But it is to say that you cannot say Israel right or wrong. You know, that we must support the state of Israel, whatever it does and whatever. That's very dangerous. That's ideology. That's seems to be idolatry. I'm speaking strongly, but you know, I've lived and worked in that part of the world and seen how that works, but I've also had this debate, and it crosses, you know, Jewish Christians, Messianic Jews, etc., etc. There are all sorts of different positions on this. Yeah, it's probably enough. You know, the way that the New Testament reads those prophecies, particularly Romans 8, emphasize the whole world is now God's holy land. That is what Romans 8 is all about. Yeah.
That's an extremely important point, given the hundreds of millions of dollars that are raised in the United States in support of the building of the next temple and the red calf and all of the things that are part of the industry that is related to Christian Zionism in particular. So it's a very, very big feature of American Protestantism.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as with many other things, I think you will know that almost nowhere else in the world is this even thought of. That there are many, many things which are absolutely endemic in American culture, which just don't even exist once you go elsewhere. That's not to say they're wrong. It's just to say, actually, foreign countries do things differently.